So oftentimes, when a new medium comes out, we tend to use it in the way we use the old medium, not realizing what's possible. Some of the first television broadcasts were people simply talking on the radio. I think we're seeing a very similar pattern with government and the internet. My name's Nikita Beer, and I co-founded Outline.com to bring government into the 21st century. What we build is public policy simulators. You can think of it as SimCity, but for real life. For centuries, we've been creating and communicating government policies through unstructured text documents like these. And the online versions, they haven't really improved how this information is conveyed. In a world where everything is intelligent, government interactions still look the same way they have for 250 years. Because of this, most of us just don't have the patience to engage. But it does matter. New government policy changes our income about $4,000 each year. And until today, most of these changes have been barely influenced and only loosely understood by the public. So at Outline, what we're doing is we're making participation in government direct, intelligent, and easy. Over the last year, with a team of economists and data scientists from Berkeley and MIT, we've been merging millions of tax returns and census records to create a model of the US economy, where you can configure government policies and then see their projected impacts on real people. So we're going to now show you a demo that works, and we're going to see how a proposal will impact a friend of mine, Rudy. This is a state proposal that he knows nothing about. So Rudy will land on our page, and he'll be prompted to enter in his information. So he's married, he drives, he has 2 kids, a boy and a girl, and he makes about $45,000 a year. And he also makes about $800 in capital gains. And then immediately, we'll start seeing the effects of this policy populating on the screen in terms of taxes and benefits. And you'll see that he stands to gain around $227 from this scenario. But Rudy isn't totally self-absorbed. He also cares how it'll impact his community. So what we'll do is we'll click Map in the top left corner. And what this will do is load up a full simulation of every single resident in the state. So you'll see that the green areas are benefited and the red areas are harmed at a per capita level. This is a zip code level map. And we'll zoom in over toward Cambridge, where Rudy lives. And you'll see that most people are better off in his region. But knowing this information isn't enough. He should be able to increase the probability of this outcome. So in the top right corner, he can click Endorse, and this response gets recorded on the government's analytics, helping them shape policies around what people want. So what we've done at Outline is we've made it easy enough so that participation in government can now be part of your daily internet experience. We call it aided representation, where we find out how policies impact issues that matter to you and help you advance your interests. But the application isn't just about showing what government does or what government has planned. It's also about pushing the boundaries of what government can do. So let's say that Rudy thinks the sales tax is too high. So we can actually do a sales tax simulation within Outline. We'll move this slider over, and it'll calculate this new rate against the spending patterns of over 6 million people. So we'll hit Calculate, and it'll do it in real time. You'll see the map updates in green, but you'll also see on the right side of the screen we did bankrupt the state. But let's try something else. Bear with me. We'll go to the aggregate page, and we'll see how it impacts different income levels, from poor to rich. So Rudy thinks college is too expensive, and he thinks the state should be spending more on higher education. So we can go within line items of the budget and actually change parameters within it. So we'll spend more on education, and some of this money is going to get allocated toward financial aid packages. So what we'll do now is hit Calculate Impacts, and it'll begin the calculation. And what we'll see is that primarily middle-income households were benefited. So the idea here is that for the first time in history, whatever vision you have for government, you can create it at Outline. Now, I'm sure this all seems very novel, and most new technologies do. But our team has built this sort of thing before, and it worked. Last year, we launched a tool that would forecast your income under the Obama and Romney plans. In just 90 days, it was used over 4 million times, indicating how attractive a platform like this is. But for full disclosure, there are tools within government that can tell you this information. However, they're inaccessible by the public, and they cost enormous amounts. states are spending between 20 million to 1.6 billion for bloated consulting solutions from SAP and Accenture. And the average mid-sized city is paying $250,000. Outline, though, is a turnkey solution that not only saves governments money, but produces better governing. And so far, going after this market, we've had incredible traction. Today, we're proud to announce that we're the apparent winner in a competitive procurement with Massachusetts. You can sign up to join the private beta at outline.com. But what I'd like to do is close on something else. It's incredibly humbling to be disrupting a 250-year-old institution because fundamentally, we're changing the way society is organized. Thank you.
All right. Good job. Judges?
How do you keep this structuring of government data nonpartisan? I mean, the central issue here has got to be the level of trust a citizen has in the representation of the impact of a policy, which is going to be largely backed by a Democrat or a Republican. And if they see that, gee, I'm a Republican and this Democratic proposal is going to save me X amount of dollars, well, that clearly must be rigged because these guys worked for Obama.
Yeah, and that was a concern we had, but it's a pretty big misconception that the type of economic modeling done at the CBO and big think tanks is they do dynamic modeling where they account for all the second-order effects. But really, first-order effects are straight arithmetic, especially tax calculations and allocating government services. Those are actually just eligibility formulas primarily.
I can see why you guys were so successful in the election. Congratulations on 4 million users in 90 days. But that is sort of a time in our country when we all seem to care about government and politics. What are you going to do outside of those tentpole, events where people, it's all over the news, it's all over the media, people are reading about it, they're caring about it. What kind of strategies do you have to get this out during the times when people don't care as much?
Well, government accounts for 1/3 of our income. So under the framework that we have where we have these 4-year elections, that would be a concern. But we think that because we can have this more agile and responsive system where citizens can actually receive real-time information about changes to their income, they'll actually be more plugged in. Because I don't think, if you get a notification that your income will decline by X dollars, it's not going to be out of your way to hit yes, endorse on it.
So I just don't understand enough about government purchasing to really understand where you slot in. But I can't imagine, you're not completely replacing an Oracle installation or an SAP installation. What is the line item that governments are buying today that you're the substitute for? And is every government buying that, or is Massachusetts unique?
So most governments are acquiring SaaS ERP systems lately. We account for about 40% of the value created by those ERP systems from Oracle and Accenture.
But you're not a replacement for that. I mean, I can't say I'm going to use you and not use this other ERP system. Is your vision you want to build an entire government ERP system, or do you want to partner with SAP and Oracle to sort of slot into their ERP system?
That's a good question. We actually displace around 40% of the features of these tools. So ultimately, we could expand into those other verticals that the ERP systems do, like payroll. But it hasn't been in our immediate vision because it still serves a function as a transparency tool and a civic engagement tool. So that has been our main focus right now.
What if I'm a government and I don't want to be transparent? Seriously, like if I'm buying this as an ERP tool, it's for me to do internal planning, not necessarily to expose that to my citizenry. Would you sell to a government that doesn't necessarily want to expose this to the end constituents?
Well, of course, we'd go after early adopters first. But most governments are kind of excited about it because we've been selling primarily to bureaucrats who they love it because it constrains the political conversation by what's actually possible. So it makes their job fundamentally easier. Because now all the channels that they get from voters, it's actually coherent directives on what they should be doing.
What level of granularity do you get to in terms of there's state policies, there's city policies, there's county policies that all affect the constituents. So do you mine to that level and show the effects of, the school bill passing in my city, or where does it stop, or what level do you get to in terms of granularity?
Well, the first beachhead we've gone after is transfers and taxes. But there is potential to model everything down to the municipal level, to city taxes. You could essentially do anything given our data sets. We have 200 billion data points on the US population. It's about 200 billion.
How long does it take to build out a model? So let's say California hires you tomorrow to model for next year's election.
So the deployment cycles for each state is about 2 to 3 months. What's good is that our model is actually parsed by geography, so it's essentially turnkey in terms of the data. We do have to parse some policies, which mostly will eventually be streamlined, because across like 10 states, you'll basically capture all of the tax and spending policies.
The census data and the tax records are all public. You didn't have to jump through any hoops to get that, I'm sure. What's the proprietary part of what you guys are doing? I mean, can you tell us the secret?
So
right now,
it is conceivable that you can build this. The Tax Policy Center is one entity that has created a similar economic simulator. But the governments do work with us in providing us more internal records. They do anonymize them and things like that. But it's very hard for someone to just create another version and just have it work with the same level of sophistication as ours.
All right. I think we're out of time, unless you guys have any more questions. That's Outline. Thank you guys very much.